I'm Kris Kloss, and this is Xtreme Memories right here on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel, of course, on the 15th and the 30th of every month. Hey, Happy New Year, everybody. The first episode of 2022. Now, this one's going to be a fun one. My old pal, good old buddy of mine, Sexy Chino. Who the hell is that? You're going to find out right now. Now, just kidding, by the way. A lot of people know, in Southern California especially, Sexy Chino making a name for himself all across this part of the United States. But it all started in XPW. It all started at the Asylum, the official training school, training academy in XPW. He was a big part of that. We talk about how he got involved sometimes with XPW TV, the birth, if you will, unofficially, of Sexy Chino. And then, of course, Cold Day in Hell, where he got to step foot in an XPW ring. We talk all about that, and we invite you to Xtreme Memories. We hope you enjoy this one. And if you haven't done so, like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel, Xtreme Memories. Take it away. Sexy Chino, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Wow, long time. Boy, oh boy. Welcome, man, to Xtreme Memories. This is awesome having you on. And we're going to get right into it, folks. Sexy Chino is here and integral part of the company, like some of the guys, kind of interesting part. At first, behind the scenes quite a bit. And like our guest, Robbie Phoenix, like our guest, the stepfather, we're going to talk a lot about the Asylum. You're one of the premier students. And then you kind of became a breakout star, specifically Southern California. And one of those gimmicks that people love to you were very good with making the comic relief for the, and I mean that in the most complimentary way, the comic relief that you brought to SoCal in your own unique way. But how did you get started, Chino, in pro wrestling? And like, how old were you when you saw it, when you became a fan, when you knew you wanted to be a part of it?
Yeah, I've been a fan for a while, and like I even started back in the days. Like I'm originally from Peru, so even back in those days, exactly. I used to even watch back in the days, and I remember like watching a live match over there, and one of the wrestlers started running around the stairs around me. It's like, what the heck? So it intrigued me, and then when I came to the United States, one of the first things I saw was the Honey Nut cereal commercial with Hulk Hogan. Yeah, that's like, oh, and then I started, and then from there I kind of cut on to watching like the Superstars Wrestling Challenge, seeing all the guys, learning about it, and I really, me and my brother really got into that, and one of the main reasons that we just enjoyed it is because like it was like a good bond for us, but overall it was just like something that it was just like, like you look at the superheroes, they always talk about like the comic guys coming out straight out. This basically the big stars, like you can actually see them up front. You don't have to even read about them. So that was cool.
Yeah. So that, man, you might have burst a bubble there for. I mean, I heard that, and I've known that prior to our interview, but that a lot of people think Sexy Chino, that you're from China, but you're from Peru.
Yeah, I'm original from Peru, but I have Japanese heritage. So and the whole thing they came up with because like Chino, in a slang word, in a slang way, it describes all Asians.
Okay,
so that's why I think they went with that.
All right, well, it's very interesting. And then so when you got started in okay, so you became a fan very young, and then what are some of your memories? Because before you started up with the training school, the Asylum in XPW, what are some of your memories of attending when you first started attending XPW shows in LA?
You know, the funniest thing about it is I didn't attend XPW events until I actually got into XPW.
Oh,
So,
okay, okay,
so one of the way that I learned about XPW was because I was at the Staples Center
yeah,
and they put out flyers and I checked it out. I was like, oh, well, and I was thinking, you know what, I'm not getting any younger, and I said this could be an opportunity. And I saw like you guys had like Candido, Tammy Fitch, Sunny, and things like that. So I was like, you know what, I might as well check it out. And that's when I literally set myself up. You know, I said it's either go now or never try again. You know, it's like so might as well try and say you tried instead of
yeah.
never tried at all.
Wow, man. And do you remember right around what year that was?
Yeah, I remember it was like 2000. Like
I was
one
gonna
the
say.
first.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is like the first show that actually was for XPW was Go Funk Yourself.
Okay, right. Oh, that's the first show that you were working security and all that.
Yeah, that was the first time
Okay.
I ever saw an XPW show live.
Okay, so that was at the LA Sports Arena. Terry Funk and Sabu. That was probably the biggest show up to that point. And and you were at that point. Had you already signed up for the Asylum, the training school of XPW?
Yeah, like originally, yeah, I did sign up, and what was funny is like that one day, like when we showed up, when I showed up there, and it was like in Van Nuys, remember,
Yeah,
at the Rob Black's um, business, I would say adult business.
yeah,
You remember where they had the videos over here, they had the ring in the over there. So,
yeah.
well, that's another story to tell.
Well,
But
hey,
yeah,
that's why
so
we're
like,
here.
so yeah, so basically, when like Supreme and Messiah showed up, and I remember the guys from Bakersfield. Remember the guys from Bakersfield?
Yes, yeah, I
The
do.
I forgot what it was, like Little Matt and like I forgot the
Yes.
other guy. It was like a big chubby guy. Yeah,
Oh
I
man.
remember they were there right there, and they were like, "Oh my god, look at the Super!" And I'm like thinking, and I didn't know who they were, so I'm like, oh, "Okay," because I didn't know who Supreme or Messiah was at the time.
Oh wow. And they
Yeah,
were and
but
and
like I
they
knew about Dynamite D because because of the Wrestling Radio Network. He used to have like a it was like a before podcast itself. He just used to have the Wrestling Radio Network. He always used to advertise slammers too. I remember that.
right. Okay. So you remember prior to XPW, you remember the days of Slammers and Dynamite D's cable radio network wrestle talk show.
Correct.
Oh man. So see, I want to say I didn't know that you knew about that. It felt like you got into it a little bit later. Okay, so you were there and you were around and paying attention to things at that time. Did you ever attend Slammers before or no?
No, because I heard about slammers, but I really didn't know exactly the location at the time.
Okay,
But I knew about Dynamite D because he used to like he was the one that actually came up, and I remember like hearing one of the conversations out of his radio show, or like, and he was talking about like who's gonna be the fourth guy for the Survivor Series, or
yeah.
and he said it was gonna be me, Mark Calloway, and I was like nah, and I saw like dang, so he actually got it right on. And I was
Ah,
always remember that for some reason.
dang man, yeah, he was a wealth of knowledge back before there was nothing as far as I mean, all you had was Dave Meltzer's the newsletter, the Wrestling Observer, and I don't know if that's where he got it from, but again, speaking of slammers, and we talk about it quite a bit on this series, is that you had a lot of people in the pro wrestling industry that would come to slammers and pay their respects. And when WWF, WCW would come into town, a lot of the guys would make the trip out to the valley and just pay a visit, you know. And I don't know if you remember, but I guess you don't because you never been there. But in the front room, they had it was just like you know how an Italian restaurant or a Jewish deli has all the celebrity pictures up on the wall, you know.
Yeah, I remember like kind of Nitro Grill, right? Remember the old school Nitro Grill that used to be in Vegas, like
yeah.
kind of that style.
Well, yeah. They had all because when you go into the restaurants, you see all the celebrities that have been there, the pictures of the
Yes,
celebrities on the wall, and that's how it was in the front office of the Slammers. It was everybody. So a lot of the guys would come into town and kind of pay their respects. It wasn't like WWF, AEW, Impact. Those guys aren't going to come to town and there's a wrestling show in town, an indie show. They don't care. Their indie shows are everywhere. But back then, Slammers was one of a kind, and the wrestlers would, if they have time, they take the time to go to Slammers and hang out, check it out. It was like a very old school, one of a kind again place. So that's kind of what started. I could say myself, and now I know you, Chino, are basically getting that information. It all kind of started with Dynamite D in the Wrestle Talk cable radio network.
that's correct. It's like, and I met D, and man, to tell you the knowledge this guy had,
Right.
and to be perfectly honest, there's no Dynamite D, there's no Sexy Chino.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not the name Sexy Chino, but because I believe everything happens for a reason, even though like we all start out somehow, and maybe the tracks are not going to go as good as everybody else's, but I think the way my career that I gone with, it's been a very humbling sense. So I've always looked at the fact that these taught me so much, and I learned from lucha guys like Little Cholo. I learned from Durango. I learned from Brian Kendrick. I learned from Adam Pierce. I learned from all these guys. But the one thing, like I said, like one of the best things D ever taught me was, he goes, you know how The Rock sells, or you know how The Rock makes such a big impression. You gotta sell a lot or make a bigger impact, 10 times bigger. And I always remember that.
Well, you did, man. You definitely had some uniqueness to you, and we'll get into that. And it's interesting, Chino. I don't know if you remember, but you and I had a conversation at dinner about 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago almost, and talking about how things are synchronistic. Things happen for a reason, and that was then Point Wainimi after that pilot with Roddy Piper. If you remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, man. That was good times, dude. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, but you were working NWA that day, and I was filming that pilot with Piper. But so do you well, we talk about moments. Before XPW, what was your first wrestling show you attended?
Like, are you talking about like WWE or WWF at the time?
Or WCW, yeah.
Yeah, like my first, I can literally tell you my first event I went to was at the LA Sports Arena. It was like that rematch between Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan. I believe Demolition was going against the Twin Towers. And they even had Arsenio Hall. Hall was there. Yeah. And I think it was like, Jim Powers wrestle was there too. But it was funny because there was a guy, remember Mega Man McGee, which he was supposed to, that's one of the things in like the network, like a show where it shows Bret Hart, like, oh my god, and McMahon goes, oh, this gotta be the star because he does all the flips and things like that.
Yeah,
that was Mega Man McGee. When I used to see that guy, when I didn't know the story, I didn't really know who it was. I always thought it was like Triple H back in the days, like terrorize, because like he looked like him. He had the hair, like that. So I actually thought it was him, but I didn't know it was like Mega Man McGee was Tom McGee.
Tom McGee, yeah. He California guy. I don't know if he originally was, but now he is. I want to say he lives somewhere in Mar Vista, but he was to be that next Hulk Hogan at the time, and it just never worked out. But yeah, very interesting. So we're talking going back to the LA Sports Arena days, and it sounds like 80, 88, 89, somewhere in there.
Probably like 89 because
Okay.
yeah, like that
Oh
was like
yeah,
WrestleMania 5, right? Remember WrestleMania
right,
5? So that had to be
right.
like 89.
Okay. Yeah, I remember my first show was October of '88 at the Sports Arena. So, but right around the same time, came from the same era. And what was that like to you? Did you know then when you went into the sports arena as a kid? Did you know then that you wanted to be in this business, or did that kind of spark it when you went, or did you find out later within yourself that you wanted to be a part of this?
I knew I really enjoyed it, and I was part, and one of the funniest, like you said, how you make memories, right? When I first got to the sports arena, and I was thinking like, it's like such a big deal. I ran around the whole sports arena, just like, oh my
Oh,
god, I'm like I get to watch all the wrestlers and things like that, like because I was a really big fan, and
yeah,
but yeah, it's the moments that's supposed to mean something. It's like you always
yeah,
remember those little moments. It's like wow, but they do spark up the things. Like yeah, like back in the days, like all of us, you wrestle your brother, you do this, or you do your front yards or whatever back in the days,
yeah.
but yeah, just in general, that did kind of spark up things, but yeah, like later on, like things became more uh efficient that I really wanted to try it. But then at least
Okay,
I knew for sure at least I would have something to do with the business. At
right,
least be
right.
a fan, but I wanted to be part of this business somehow.
Okay, yeah. That's. Hey, man, we all kind of have that somewhat similar story, but in our own unique individual way. Because, like when you say you ran around the sports arena, and there was something about it. I remember walking in and seeing the people in the seats, and then looking down, looking at the ring, like, oh, that was something else, man. And yeah, I know what you mean by those moments. It's something else. Um, I wanted to. We can talk a little bit more about that, but talk a little bit about when you. Okay, so you said you saw the commercial, you got the flyer. Hey, I'm not getting any younger. You said I want to give this a shot. We're talking about the year 2000 now, so we're talking like 10, 11 years after your first wrestling show at the sports arena. Now, fast forward, you're older and you're basically you're an adult, and you start training at the asylum. So this is XPW's pro wrestling training camp, training school, academy, the XPW Asylum. Now, when you got in there, who was your primary trainer? Was it Damian Steele? Was it Dynamite D? Was it, or some other guys?
It was Dynamite D. Yeah, we,
Okay.
we were just getting in before, like as soon as when D was just becoming the main trainer. So I never got to be with Damien Steele because I remember
Okay.
remember
Yeah.
Loki,
Loki
Loki and
Steve.
Zach,
Yeah.
exactly Loki, Steve and Zach, and they used to tell me about yeah, like how Damien Steele used to teach and everything. I was like I didn't get a chance to do that. Um, so yeah, but overall, like you said, it's like they got Damian Steele, they got Dynamite D, just a little more knowledge. But overall, like I'm really happy I got D, man. It's
Oh yeah.
like I said, to me, D's one of the best human beings, not even wrestlers, human beings that I ever met. And the coolest thing about D to me was the fact that he he actually he personified being a wrestler. See, some people want to play a wrestler, and other people are wrestlers.
Yeah. Right. Right. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point. Like he, wrestling's a tough business, and you got to pay your dues, and you did have to pay your dues with D But again, he was a great guy, great human being, but he was able to really balance that out, because a lot of times you get guys that are totally, they're too nice and they end up being pushovers, or then you get guys that are just total dicks, assholes, and they won't budge or give an inch, or be sympathetic or empathetic at all. D was kind of able to fuse both those together, which he didn't.
Yeah, you're right. Like I said, D was really cool. Like I said, we learned a lot from him. We did do a lot of drills, and yeah. But at the end, he always taught us something different, and and he taught us things that meant something. He just didn't teach us something just to teach us. It had to mean something.
Psychology.
Yeah, exactly. It meant something. That's another thing. Like I learned a lot over the years is that if you're gonna do something, it had to mean something. No
Right.
wasted motion. They even say about the Undertaker, it's like whatever he does in the ring, it means something. Even with his look, it means something. It's like
Yes.
so it's not like he just did a two flips for no apparent reason. He did one, two steps to get somewhere else, and it meant something. Oh, it freaked out the opponent. Oh, he got on the ref, things like that. And those are the little things that sometimes you miss out on.
Yeah, and sometimes, and those are the great, thanks for sharing that, because those are those moments, those are those subconsciously, let's say, for the fan, especially the young fan or the novice, that they're watching the story play out, and they're watching step A going to step B, going to step C. And a lot of times the fan doesn't even realize what they're watching, but they're taking in that story that you're talking about right there. And that's great, man, because you look, that's what got us, a lot of us, into liking this business years and years ago, when we didn't even realize, again, subconsciously, something's drawing me to this. And that's one of those aspects of wrestling that is the mystery. And that's where the magic happens. Like, ooh, I get to figure out how this works. And
Yeah.
it was an honor to be back there for me, for you too.
Yeah, it was an honor. Like I really enjoy learning all the different aspects of it. That's why like if you want to learn the wrestling business, learn the wrestling business. You see, to understand the wrestling business, you have to understand every part of it. It's like any kind of history. It's like if you don't know what happened in this year, then you don't understand because history always repeats itself. And that's why you use
Right.
like any aspects of the past to help the future.
Yeah, a storyline, and not only a long storyline, say that lasts weeks and months, but the story within the match.
So true. Because like everybody like if you watch a match and you just watch, they got you. But if you just
Yeah,
watch a match and you just get away and put your eyeballs, they lost you.
yeah, they lost you, and you can have the most let's say non-believing fan, or when you can get them, then like, see, the wrestling is magic. I remember going to shows and people, really, you do this wrestling stuff? Oh, really? Like, yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll check it out. Like, they act like they're a little bit above it, and then if it's a good show and good matches, they'll get lost in it, and their defenses are down, and they didn't even realize their defenses are down because they got captivated by it. And I just remember looking at them going, yeah, see, that's right. The wrestling is, like they don't even realize that what they just made fun of got over on them.
So
you
true.
know,
It's like
yeah,
you don't what you don't expect, it comes out of nowhere. Because once you expect it, then you're like, okay. But when you don't expect something, it captivates you.
yeah, 100%, man. So So what year was, so we're talking 2000, you start training with D and the rest of the guys at the asylum at the first office in XPW, correct? Or the second office?
It had to be the first one, remember? Because it was the little small one. It wasn't the big
Oh, right.
one, the big warehouse where we had
Yep.
more space. It was just a
Yes.
little
Right.
ring right there. Remember?
Yeah. The first office, it was like, it was up against the wall and up against the fence. There was a chain link fence inside the warehouse, and all the videos and all the equipment was on the other side of the fence. But the ring, two sides of the ring were like up against the fence and almost up against that back wall. So you only had that little area in the front and on the side to practice stuff getting thrown outside. But you're right, the second office, it was bigger, and it was we had multiple warehouses in the second office. So um and again, you had more room. The ring was clear path on most of the ring on the outside there. So must have been a lot nicer going to that second office. Hey, I remember one time, Sexy Chino, you got
Yeah.
involved. Now, was this the first time you were on XPW TV? I'm talking about when Supreme came to the office and he was looking for Rob Black. He was in some feud, some storyline, and he needed to find Rob. And of course, Rob sent his troops, his soldiers out, which were the students, the
The
asylum
student.
students. Yeah. Now, they did that twice. They did that in the first office, and I know you were a part of it in the second office, which almost to me was like, okay, that was the birth of Sexy Chino, right?
Yeah. Well, like it was, you know what Rob Black used to call me back in the days, right? Remember?
Sulu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Sexy Chino to him was FM Zulu.
Yes. Right. And
But
here
yeah,
you're
no,
coming.
like Sexy
Yeah.
Chino, like well, at least before the Sexy Chino name, I I got that from like more like I remember that one time D had to do matches, right? I'm getting a little ahead, but
Go ahead. Go ahead.
D had to do little matches, and remember like, and I used to like Road Dog, so they hey do like a little dance, so that's when I came up with a little shuffle, and yeah, that's what like semi sexy Chino, like later on things built more, but that's where I live, because like I'm like I just came out of my shell right there. It's like oh I just did all like oh wow, and it was fun and it felt natural.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. And so I mean, okay, so Sulu, he was calling you that. And now were you a part of when Supreme, okay, so the to lay it out here, and if we can get some pictures, I'll try to put them up, but I'll remember that. And possibly. But anyway, um Supreme came through the office. Now this was kind of like the infamous scene with the students, because Supreme was going to the office. You had one student as security. Nope, you can't come in. And Supreme barreled his way through that guy. Then another guy came. He barreled his way through that guy. And then another guy came. He threw that guy. Now, just to let you guys know, this was legit. He was throwing real punches. And this just goes to show, like, it's a great example of how the business was then. And that old school mentality was still around. It didn't really change yet, to where, like, look, everyone had to pay their dues one way or another. You had to either eat crow, you had to eat fist, something. And that was one of those times where the students were they were just rookies. They were starting out, and that was almost like the hazing right there. But Supreme, if you go back and look at that footage, he is for legitimately clocking everybody. He threw low key Steve into the wall. In the wall, you could see the drywall broke, right? But were you I see I almost called you Sulu. I remember now. It's coming back. We did call you we did call you Sulu back in the day, dude.
Back in the days.
Yeah, back in the day. It was so long ago. But okay, so Chino. So were you part of that were you part of that first vignette in the first office or no?
I think I was part of maybe the second one because I was there with the stepfather. Because I remember like I was almost towards the last guy.
Okay, right.
Before Supreme got in there.
Okay, so we're going. So this segment was so impactful and it was so talked about, you know, because Supreme was really nailing these guys and knocking some teeth out, whatever. That they did it again later on. They like, let's do this again. That was great. It got a lot of people talking. So now you were in there. You had to be one of those security guards, and Supreme came in, knocked one guy out in the lobby, came back around by the kitchen before Rob's office, knocked another guy out. But before he did that, you were like, the other students were like, all right, go get him. And you did this, yeah, and he did the whole karate kick.
Crane and it didn't work out.
Crane kick, yeah. And then that was one of those moments where I thought XPW had its moments of humor, but I felt like it needed it a little more sometimes. I thought the hardcore, we had that identity of hardcore wrestling, but I felt like sometimes I wanted, as much as I could, inject some humor, and I thought that we needed that sometimes when we got a little too dark, if you will. And I just remember watching you do that, thinking, "Oh, this is great, man. This is what we need," because you injected humor into a scene that nobody was going to not take seriously, because Supreme was really hitting these guys. So it was just this chaotic moment of, this is real, a crane kick. Oh, but then it's real. Like, what the hell? You know, it was just this. But that was the moment I feel like your character, your persona, which came later in Southern California wrestling, that was like, to me, that was the moment when you were born in a way on a wide scale. People remember that moment of you.
Yeah. Do you remember how Supreme just looked at me?
Yes.
And
yeah.
then just threw me
yes. Yeah. So everybody got knocked out, and then you approached him. Yeah. The crane, and you just sit there, and he just kind of looked at you and then shoved you against the boxes. You actually got lucky.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got lucky, because he just, oh, get this guy out of here, and he just shoves you and landed in the cardboard boxes. But then right after he did that with you, that's when he nailed the other guy. I want to say Matt, and then Zach. No, that was one of those moments that everybody was talking about at that time.
It was a classic moment. Like, it's the funniest thing. Like, just the look, you know, that's one thing I always remember. Supreme that said that one time you just looked at me like, really? Just get rid of, like, yeah, sure, yeah. I just beat up everyone. Like, you're like the little fly or something, you know?
Yeah. Were the other guys? Did the other guys give you crap because they all took shots and you didn't? Did that ever happen or no?
No, not really. I think the guys like were good with me, because like I was never down on anybody. You know, it's like I was always there to like help or whatever. You know, it's like,
right.
and I was to be perfectly honest, I was the dummy. Remember back, I was the dummy because I was the smallest guy, so I got tossed around like that, and they like that about me.
Again, paying your dues. It was so different back then, no?
Yeah, it was different, but like we all learn differently, and things have changed. But it should, like, it's more about learning technique right now, and we all need to pay our dues. I agree with that.
Yeah,
it's just that right now we're in a different stage, and it should be more about learning what we're doing, you know. exactly. Like it's not about hazing, it's like back in the days. It's a business that should still be a business that you have fun doing. How about that?
Yeah, of course. But it was a little more rugged. It was more rugged
Yeah,
back
it
then.
was.
Yeah, quite a bit. I think one of the many reasons why I like doing this show is just to kind of paint that picture for the younger guys starting out now. Like, just to really let you know how brutal it could be back then, and like you said, there's pros and there's cons to that. But again, Dynamite D was that perfect guy to have during that era. Okay, yeah, you're going to pay your dues, but it's going to be done with respect in a way with him.
Correct. Like D was a very respectful human being,
Right.
and that's one thing. It's like one of the main things that I do in this business, at least, is I want to be humble to it. I don't care like where I go. I got a chance to go to New Orleans and wrestle for Wildcats, right? And
Oh
one of the
wow.
main things, like Luke brought me out there, and I mean he helped me get there, and then I show and like they say, oh, you don't have to help, and I wanted to help through the ring because I want to still show that I'm humble. Because once you start like forgetting where you came from or treating everyone like, oh, you're a superstar, then you're
Yeah.
like, remember, it's all the up and down, but it's not, because if you want to be in this business, be in the business because you want to be in it, not because what it's gonna come for you.
Right. Yeah, right. Don't no not for the fame. If the fame comes, great, but that cannot be the reason. That cannot be the reason. Uh, the core reason why you want to be in this business. You will never satisfy yourself.
No, if that was it, man, I left a long time ago because I don't because I'm not the guy. I don't make the biggest paychecks. I'll tell you that, but I make decent amount. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I do it because I love it, and I'm like I say, I love this business, and if I can give back to this business, is the best thing I could do. To me, knowledge means a lot more sometimes than the mighty buck.
Right. Yeah. I mean, knowledge, dollars come and go, but the knowledge is there forever. Um,
Truly.
so talking to, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So were you close? Because well, okay, we're gonna get into you wrestling in XPW. Now it came a little bit later. It came in the form of Cold Day in Hell in 2008. Of course, the speaking of Dynamite D, the Dynamite D tribute battle royal. XPW closed its doors in 2003, and then 5 years later, we had a reunion show in 2008, and then the next year in 2009, we had the 10-year reunion show, XPW Roman numeral X, XPWX. Um, Now, before they closed their doors, before I get to that though, Chino, any
Yeah.
any other stories that you can think of? Any parts of XPW, whether it was at the live show or whether it was television, like the Supreme coming in the office, that you were involved in that you can remind us about?
Okay. Yeah, probably. Well, the funniest thing is like one of my friends really says, "Oh, you made me famous. Why? Because I had like a spot in Botchamania. So it was, remember, like the Go Funk Yourself, because we were like playing the homeless Jimmy's homeless crew.
Oh
Remember
yeah, the
that?
fellow bums. Yeah,
Yeah, we were wearing the bums, and so we're supposed to set up the table, right? And we're setting up the table, and what's going on is like like I try to get out of the ring, I slip, and then the crowd goes, "You effed up, you effed up." I'm like, "Wow." And I just fell, but I went like, "Wow." So yeah, so I made a moment right there because it's on Botchamania.
and isn't that funny how a little thing like that you're still getting a reaction though from the crowd.
I don't know. Like
It's
I remember like walking sometimes when we were doing back in the days XPW events, and like some of the fans used to call me Tajiri. Look at Tajiri. But
Wait.
yeah, like,
Tajiri. Okay.
yeah, they used to call me Tajiri. And I remember like if you want to talk about stories and things like that back in the days, remember when we used to work, we used to put the death matches in the high school.
Yeah, at Birmingham High. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember how we had like the 48 hours, at least for the students of the crew. We had to put up. We had the huge carpet. Oh my god, that took for a while. It's like,
Yeah.
and the big X's and things like that we had to put together. That was a long day. Yeah, like we used to put it like a 48 hours. We were all tired at the end after all that. But like you say, you got to pay your dues at the time, and we put on our time.
Yeah,
We definitely put in our time for that. But yeah, overall, like other XPW memories was like one of the funniest things is like when I with D before I left XPW, the Asylum, is we were having matches, and I was facing Robbie Phoenix.
Okay.
At the time, they called him Smoke, so he was doing Smoke, and Stepfather was his manager. And the funniest thing is, like, we were having a match, and to my mindset was the fact that this could be the only match I ever had, and I was thinking the only people that would ever seen it were like the Britney Spears poster, Chaos, and GQ Money, and maybe the other guys. But yeah, that's what I thought, man. That's the only people I was ever gonna see me actually do something in this ring. But it seems like I got a chance to actually show more people than I ever expected. So yeah, being humble in the business has taken me a long way.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, because I remember after XPW was done, and then I was doing indie shows announcing, and I remember the first time I saw you, and then I saw you come out and perform. I'm like, oh, finally, and you were doing the Sexy Chino stuff. Like, see, now this is all coming to pass. But how close were you close at all to before XPW shut its doors? Were they talking to you? Was Kevin or Rob? Did they have any ideas? Let's say that they were planning on. Did you come close to possibly doing something, but then the doors closed or anything like that? Were there at least talks?
There was talks. It's like one of the, like when I was about to leave, because like I was saying, remember you used to say like, oh, they were going to give you some sort of spot or like a chance, and I was training, and I already had paid already my full, and I was getting the training every 2 days, what it was. But yeah, I remember like getting to one time like, hey, like XPW, the Asylum, and saying, okay, I've been training this long, but nothing's happening. How much more can I do? We all get to some point, like, so it's like in my mind says like, okay, I guess this is as much as it's gonna get. That's why like I thought the Britney Spears poster was it. But yeah, I do remember like Kevin like going to D and going, you know what? And me and Stepfather left at the same time. And I go, thank you for everything, D, but I think this is my last time. And it was like after the event from Pico Rivera, the explosion match.
Okay,
I think it was Big Bryant and Supreme.
Yeah, blown to hell.
That's exactly that's when I actually like after that. But yeah, like D goes D actually went to Kevin and told him that I was gonna leave. Like, oh, okay. And then D came back and said they might have something for you. Soon. So I was like, all right, let's see. And one of the things that they wanted me to be the Asian guy, but they said you were gonna be somebody's step to the ring. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, you're gonna okay, yeah. Was it Webb? Was it White Trash? Johnny Webb?
Webb, yeah, something like that. And I'm like, I'm gonna be a step. So I'm like, literally I thought I'm gonna be a step. I was like, that's when I like, wait a minute. So you trained this long just to be a okay, yeah. I was like, at least throw me out or do something, you know, but just gonna be a step. I'm like, okay, that's in team. So I literally have told the story before, but I literally walked into Rob Black's office and he's watching like football and things like that. And I go in and I go, I appreciate the opportunity you guys are trying to give me, but I don't want to take it. And then Rob Black looks at it and goes, "What do you say, Kevin?" I can't do the Rob Black good, but then he goes like, then Kevin looks, he doesn't want the opportunity, like, and then Rob Black looks for a second and then he goes back, and then like, yeah, a few seconds later, he just goes back to watching football again. But yeah, that's yeah. So I could have had a shot, but in my mind's like, at least do something with me,
Yeah.
and just being a step to me, at least, that's how I felt about it.
So before they even offered you that, you kind of already made the decision to leave.
Yeah, pretty much I was about to leave because like I felt like, how much more can I, like, I was enjoying training and things like that, but we weren't going nowhere.
Yeah,
It felt
yeah,
that
it
way
was.
to me.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the core product was kind of staying where it was, and I don't know, maybe it felt a little like, at least to me at times, thinking about you guys in the class, not knowing. I mean, I remember they were going to give Doomhammer. He was like the first guy that was going to get the big push. I forget his what's his name again.
Brett.
Yeah,
It was
that's right,
Brett.
Brett. Yep, Brett. And so I remember that was the moment. But again, that was towards the end, and nothing ever unfolded. But before that happened, it kind of felt like WWF jobbers. Like it felt like, well, look, they never used those guys, barely, like, and so I can understand you thinking that, looking at how wrestling kind of worked that way.
Yeah, because like I just like what I was thinking in my head at the time is like, I think they just want us to be security for life.
Yep, I
The
can
way
I
it's
can
team,
I can understand that, and I can understand. Well, that was the thing. You went in, you told them what you thought, and that was that. And so, but that was, you kind of left, and that was just before XPW went to the East Coast. Then, correct?
Correct. You're correct.
Okay, so that was that, and then the rest is history. It lasted about another year, and and then it folded. And at that time, were you starting? When did you first wrestle and perform at a wrestling show, whatever show, as Sexy Chino? And when was that?
Uh, okay, my debut match was on August 8th, 2002 in Solidar, California. It was
And
facing
where?
Mr. California of all people.
Vista.
Solidar,
Okay.
California, August 8th, 2002. And my opponent was Mr. California. And the
Oh,
funny thing is, like, yeah, like, the funny thing is, if you want to know, is that's how I got the Sexy Chino name over there, because it was like, uh, supposedly they wanted to put me underneath the mask and call me Orlando Fury, but I didn't have a mask. So they suppose, because I remember like when I went to them, like Martin, World Power Wrestling, I I gave him I gave him a tape of like the stuff, like, because I used to tape. Then my friend taped some of the stuff that we did in the asylum. Like I got that match, and I thought they saw it, but they never did. That's what I figured, because I remember seeing it, the tape there, and like nothing was on or off. But I don't know if they saw it really, but it looked like they didn't see it. So said I was gonna be around a Fury, and unfortunately they didn't have a mask. So one of the guys, in front was listening to the song. You know, the Mexican song goes, "Sexy, sexy." It's like one
Oh,
of the Latino
yes.
songs. Yeah. So he goes, "You're gonna be like Sexy Chino." That works. I'm like, okay. And I mean, I didn't even think I was gonna wrestle. I just thought, I was gonna go with them and help them build the ring and things like that. And so I didn't have any gear. I just went with my training gear, which is
Yeah.
basically a Bruce Lee shirt and some sweatpants, things like that.
Okay.
But what's funny is like I just went out there, I jumped in the ring and just danced my way, and the crowd loved it. And that was it. Like after that, I had a I had like the match with Mr. California, and I even missed, and things didn't go as well as towards the end, but the crowd was still into it, and I was a newcomer, and I was like, wow. So yeah, so that's the orient of the Sexy Chino name or where it started. But like I
Okay.
said, the Asylum is where I got the shuffle, which is the dance. That's
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
came out
yeah.
of the shell.
That was that comic relief that we talked about. So, Marvin, Mr. California, that was another student. Shout out, and that was XWW, Extreme World Wrestling, uh, Mr. California's league. Shout out to him. And so that's where you got your start. Now, XPW was still in operations at that time. That was literally like right at the time when August of '02 was like right when XPW was starting to do shows on the East Coast. We were in the old ECW arena and all that, and so here you are, you know, maybe the wise move at the time for you. You got your experience with Dynamite D and all that, and just working for a company like XPW. Did it help you? Do you think become a wrestler? All that you saw and experienced in the back in XPW, not just the training, but being a part of all that. Did that help?
Yeah, it did because it showed me like how things get run and how people like how you're supposed to be walking around and showing respect, and because that's one of the main things we did over there as the students, we always showed respect
Yeah.
to everybody, well,
Right.
all the good wrestlers and workers, or you want to consider them. They came, including you, including the commentators, including you guys. Remember, we always said hello and shook the hands,
That's
like
right.
the
That's right.
but yeah, but it did show a lot. Like I said, I learned a lot from a lot of people, but I learned from D. Like I say, I learned from Spring. I learned from maybe when I'm not gonna ever say like I never learned. Like I learned from one person because I haven't. I learned from so many people, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. Is like if I stop learning, I don't want to be in this business. I'll be straightforward with you.
Yeah, that's so true, man. And again, I remember you and I uh, getting a bite to eat after that show in Point Wainimi. We really got kind of deep into that, and I remember that, my friend. But so okay, now of course. By the way, Chino, thank you for sharing all that with about Dynamite D specifically, Supreme 2. We lost a lot of guys, and look, speaking of losing a lot of guys, back in 2008, we had already lost a lot of guys. So when XPW decided to, um, which was run by Big Vision Entertainment now at this time, um, decided to launch a reunion show, and this was kind of the test pilot for what was going to be monthly pay-per-views, but it never happened because shortly after was the big crash of 2008, and that was it for Big Vision Entertainment. But that reunion show, Cold Day in Hell, first time back in 5 years, and you were a part of that. You were a part of the Dynamite D and Fallen deceased XPW stars battle royal, memorial battle royal. So you already been wrestling for 6 years now at this point. But what did that mean to you when you got that call You're going to wrestle now for XPW. You're also going to wrestle to pay tribute to D and everybody else. What was that to you, Chino, when you found that out?
It was great because like one of the main things that as as a student or like you always want your teacher, your sensei, to be proud of you. And one of the things is like as soon as one of the only times that D ever told me, and he literally told me he was proud of me, was that I think GC something show that used to be like up there by Magic Mountain area. I forgot exactly what it's called.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, I know. Oh, not up in Fillmore.
it's like by the Magic Mountain area. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it
Okay,
was
but
like
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I can't remember the name though.
yeah, I can't remember the name, but that was D was there, and I remember him telling me, "I'm proud of you." I'm like, "Wow, thank you." And that really like made me like feel great because no matter what you do in the business, like the biggest accomplishments are not the biggest accomplishments of wealth. Biggest accomplishments is the more accomplishment of respect.
Right.
But
100%.
like you were talking about like how I feel when I got that phone call, I was like, yeah, I feel great because like I want to represent D.
Yeah.
I wanted to, and like I said, I'm gonna put my heart out. Like wherever event I go to, I give you my heart out. But I always try to give that little extra, just because like D always told me, you you know how the rock is, you got to be 10 times bigger, and that's what I try to do.
Yeah. You got to, if there's the rock, you got to be the boulder. But
I'm a
really,
dancer.
yeah, no, but I'm kidding, but I'm serious. Like that was his philosophy, and I mean, obviously, it worked. You're still talking about it to this day. Um, that's beautiful, man. Thank you. And also, how did it feel when you walked out and you were a part of the 10-year reunion show, or no, where you were just Cold Day in Hell?
Yeah, it was just part of Cold Day Hell.
Okay,
Wait,
what
the
was
10-day reunion was the one like
in Hollywood?
was in that little place.
Yeah.
I think it
In
like Adam Pierce and teamed up with I forgot whether it was Miss Matt Wrestling One or something like that. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
I
Miss
think was that the event because I remember like they gave me the only thing I remember doing there was I was supposed to be like sitting in the front and something was supposed to happen. I totally forgot exactly. Is that the one you talk about?
Boy, Chino, I can't remember if that was the 10-year reunion show or if that was Mex
Oh,
Pro, Mex PW. I cannot remember, but
oh.
okay, going back to Cold Day in Hell, you got to do that. You got to represent D. Of course, Carnage ended up winning that battle royal. Um, and then you got to work with all the other students. And what was that like when you went to the ring, you see all the XPW stuff up, you're finally in the ring, and how was that to you? It was a packed house, close to 2,000 people there. How was that? Because share a little bit of that with us, because there was a lot of hype and there was a lot of interest in that show, and then also seeing the product on DVD. And I did whatever I could to put you over, and Rivera too. What did all that mean when you walked to the ring and then you saw the finished product, everything?
It felt great. It felt like you were really at a live event, like a big event.
Yeah,
It wasn't just like one of those one of those little events that you see here. It's like they had lights and banners and yeah, it felt big. It felt like the XPW big event, like the WrestleMania style. It's like it felt
right.
big because like the crowd was into it and people there were stars there and but there was newcomers and we were all it felt that way because all of it was big. It was like a
Yeah,
grand stance, it was like and we were like, oh my, like that. Like a lot of the guys like show off Matt and Carnage, we were all like, wow, it was like we're part of this. But
Yeah.
more than that, we were part of this because of D.
Yeah, right. It was definitely a homecoming, and you guys no exception. Finally getting to return home in the ring. Now Rob Black wasn't a part of that, but that was through Big Vision Entertainment. But I know you touched on him a little bit. When you had to leave and all that. Your thoughts overall on Rob Black?
Um, Rob Black was an interesting character. I'll say that, but overall, one thing I could say about him is like he had a vision for at least to put wrestling on the map, at least in SoCal area. And to this day, we're still talking about it. So he succeeded in that.
That's true. And speaking of that, I'll close it with this. I like asking this to everybody, Sexy Chino. And again, thank you for being on here, my friend, and good catching up with you. What in your mind, being a fan, liking wrestling, when you went to the WWF Sports Arena, LA Sports Arena for the first time, all the way up till now, and like you said, we're talking about it. There's so many variables to it. What is, in your mind, what will be the legacy of XPW in the world of professional wrestling?
The legacy of XPW is that it was a company. It was actually a company that was there to like put SoCal on the map more than anything else. It felt like, it was. I know you had the ECW, but XPW, and you're bringing like New Jack, Sandman, Conan, like Hoovy. But yeah, they were trying to put their name on the map. And if you think about it, they did. So if that was the success of Rob Black and XPW in general, they did a good job. But one of the main things is like they may have done all this hardcore stuff, but there was a family. It's like you had Homeless Jimmy, you had Supreme, you have Chaos, you have GQ Money, Jezebel, like the students. Somehow or another, we're all connected.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, we're always going to be connected. Some people may not be into the XPW thing, but it was a way to put your foot in the door.
That's right.
That's what we did.
Well, that's what we did then, and that's what we're doing now. This is Xtreme Memories. Sexy Chino, my brother. It's good seeing you again, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's
always
great,
good seeing. Yeah, always good seeing you, brother. And do you have any shout outs? You want to say hi to anybody or plug yourself, your social media or where you're going to be or anything like that?
Yeah, just appreciate look for at Wrestling Pro Wrestling on Instagram at Wrestling PW. I believe it's on Twitter. If you want to check what I do, I'm just a guy that likes enjoys and have fun. Literally, what I put on my information when you see my Instagram or my Twitter is at Dance Chino Dance. And one of the funniest things about at Dance Chino Dance, the fans came up with that.
Dance Chino Dance. Nice, man. That's so well. That fits the gimmick, brother. Well, hey, man, Sexy Chino, on behalf of myself, everyone here at the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel, and for Xtreme Memories and all the fans watching, I want to say thank you for being on the show. You were a part of XPW. You went on and did what you did. Very unique persona, gimmick, character, performer, and this show wouldn't be complete without you, man. You were an interesting part of that whole time in history. And again, more power to you, brother. And good seeing you, man.
Thank you, man.
All right, folks.
It's great seeing you, buddy.
Yeah, you too, man. We'll see you next time right here. More Xtreme Memories on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. So long, everybody.
Thank thank you for watching Xtreme Memories, hosted by Kris Kloss. He's dropping new episodes every month on the 15th and 30th. You can be the first to tune in by subscribing to the Wrestling Chatter channel right here on YouTube. See you next time.